So, go back to sharing my screen. And go back here. Okay, so we got through figuring out what all those chords are, which is, like I said, where I like to start. Because then you can know if you're spelling them correctly. So at that point, I do often find it useful to kind of go from left to right, just because otherwise you might end up like creating something that's really hard to connect somewhere in the middle. So, and in terms of starting this one chord, first of all, you can note that the bass is going down. So you know that you don't have to start super high. You'll have a lot more space as you go. But I like to start with a nice amount of space at the beginning. Or something like that. You could also, a lot of times I'll start very, very wide like this. Something that I saw in a lot of assignments this week was people with too much space between their tenor and their bass, or excuse me, tenor and the bass can be pretty far apart. That's usually not the issue. But between the tenor and the alto, I often saw like just huge spans. And then between the alto and the soprano, I saw a lot of space too. Keep in mind that those need to be within a perfect octave of each other or less. And that just helps it sound nice. Like if you think about how you might like try to tune a chord in a choir that had all the voices like super spread out, it would be really difficult. So the idea is that this music is written for voices. So that's where a lot of the rules come from. Okay. So you may have jotted this down as we went, like which pitches we actually need here. We need B natural. We said it was a G major minor seventh chord, right? So G, B natural, D, and F. F is already in the bass, so that one's accounted for. I think it's like a good strategy, especially if you haven't done this in a while, to just like list all the note names somewhere off to the side and then just cross them off one at a time as you go. Just so you make sure you don't forget anything. Okay, anyway, GBD is what's left. In general, I think it's very good to try to move by step when you can. Here we have a perfect fifth between the tenor and the soprano, so we don't want both of those to just go up. So maybe the tenors can go down. We need a G and we need a B natural, like that. And in terms of resolving this chord, F is in the bass, that's the seventh, it has to go down and it's already doing that. So you're halfway there. The B natural that's in the soprano has to go up. You don't have a choice. So you might as well do that. Oh, except for there's a weird chord coming. So let's think for a second about what we're doing. We're making an A major minor seventh chord here, which means instead of just going to C, it could go to C sharp. We need A, C sharp, E, and G. That could go to C sharp. G is already in the alto. Oh. Amy's here, I think. One more person has joined us. So let's think about this one for a second. What would you do? I haven't written us into a hole, but what I had initially is not going to work. So what else could I do? A, C sharp, E, and G.
Would the D go down to C sharp then?
D could go down to C sharp, I think. Then what else, Sean?
And then so the B natural has to go to C then.
So no, it doesn't.
Okay. I guess that could. Okay, could it go down to an A then?
And then I can keep my G in the alto, keep it the same. So thank
Right.
you. That's good. So one thing I noticed that was a problem is that people had huge leaps from one voice to another. And notice that as we kind of worked through that, and I was like, oh, I'll do this. Oh, no, that won't work. Or I'll do this, and that won't work. Part of what I was deciding didn't work was that I didn't want any of the voices to have to leap more than like a third. And here we were able to move all of them by step, and the alto even stayed the same. So staying the same and moving by step when you can is definitely the way to go. Not that you'll never have to leap, but in this case, that's often the simpler thing to do. Okay, moving to D minor for the sixth chord. The seventh of this chord, which is G, that's highlighted in blue at the moment, has to go down. That rule is really fixed. There's really no exception to it, which is kind of awesome because telling you that there's rules and then telling you all the different ways that you don't actually have to follow them is really confusing a lot of the time. But the seventh of the chord always has to go down. And then notice that I can move the tenor up to D by step. And then the, soprano can stay on A and just stay the same, and it's fine. So we've resolved that to 4, or to 6. Okay, let's look at this German augmented 6th chord. Or let me stop. Does anybody want me to go back and repeat anything thus far?
So if you have, like at the beginning of the one chord, anything within the F and the C, it can't go in the same direction whether you're going up or down.
They can go in the same direction like the F and the C are doing in this case, but they're both moving to a 6th.
Oh, okay.
And only the tenor is leaping. The soprano is moving by step. So that's part of why that works.
Okay, but just as long as it doesn't move in stepwise, like motion to like a 5th then.
If we had like the simpler thing in a way would be to move all of the voices up except for the bass, but then you'd have parallel fifths. And so that's why I didn't do that.
Okay.
That's why I ended up not doing that. Sorry, I was gonna try to send my husband a message to feed the dog because she's gonna start to throw a fit. Okay. So that was a good question. Anybody else? Since I'm actually talking to you in real time, I don't want to go too fast. Okay. Just, you can raise your hand or you can, what's it called? You could just unmute yourself if you want to ask something. Go right ahead. Okay. So in the German augmented 6, we already said we need 1, we need F, we need A flat, we need B natural.
Could you
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. Could you maybe keep the alto and soprano voices the same, but just flatten the soprano?
I think that will work. So let's try that. There's our 1. There's our A flat. That means we need B natural, which we can get to in a consonant way here. We're just going down a third like that is fine. You don't want to leap a tritone or an augmented or diminished interval, which some of you also might have seen me comment on that on the homework. We'll know in a second if we were right that this will work. If getting to the next chord is really the moment when you can figure that out. So let's see. Flat 6 needs to go down to 5. Sharp 4 would normally also go up to 5. Let's see what happens if we do that. We could make an incomplete 5-7 chord for one thing, and that's okay. You don't have to have, if 5-7 is in root position, you can leave out the 5th, and it's okay. We definitely need the third of this chord so that we know what chord it is. And then the only thing missing is B flat, which we could put there. The other thing is that because 5-7 is immediately going to 5-4-2 on the next beat, we can flesh it back out there. We can add whatever's missing and kind of move things around at that point, and it'll be okay. So 542, we've got the fa in the base. We've got scale degree 4 in the base. It's resolving itself already, so we don't have to worry about that. At this point, you can move things around if you feel like you need to. We need C, E, and G. We don't want to have anything doubled in this 542 chord. We do want all the voices to be present. So we might end up with something like that. You could do it differently. And certainly you could have started with a different 1 chord and have something completely different from what I've written here that could work as well. But in any case, we can kind of move that 5/7 to 5/4/2 and switch things around without it being a problem. Okay, moving to 1/6. We need F, A, and C. We have some options about what to double, but we'll at least start with FAC. So notice all the places that you can move by step and keep things the same. Like you can definitely keep C the same in the tenor. You can move it, but there's need to yet.
Question. Is it okay for the tenor and the bass to be more than a perfect octave apart?
Yes. So generally the rule for the tenor and bass only, for only those 2 voices, is an octave plus a fifth. They rarely need to go any further than that. And even if they did, I probably wouldn't really be upset about it. But usually that's the rule of thumb, is an octave plus a fifth for those 2 voices. So right now they're fine. Okay, we need an F and an A. Or both voices on F, we can sort of decide. We need to make A natural. That didn't work. 1 second, DJ. Okay, DJ, yes?
Hi, sorry, I just have to go. I have a meeting with my practicum GTA.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so now we have, well, once again, we will see if that works or if we need to do something different. If we need to double something differently. Okay, moving to 4, we've got B flat, D, and F. Here's an F, we can at least keep that. Notice that in the tenor, I can probably move to D pretty easily just by step. And that means I don't have to move a bunch of other stuff around. Now, I don't want to put B flat in the soprano. Do you see why not? Let me just put it there for a moment so you can look at it. What's the problem?
Is it parallel fifths?
Not parallel fifths, but parallel octaves between the soprano and the bass in that case, yes. Okay. So bear with me for a moment. Oh no, that's not what I meant to do. And then switch back to 1, but then, oh wait, whilst I'm in 2, I can do this, but it kind of sucks. So just a second, make that invisible and make that invisible, and then go back to 1. Okay, so there they both are on F. The bass is going upwards, so we may need to make our soprano go a little higher as we move here. Okay, flat 2 in the key of F major is going to be G flat, as we were saying before, golf flat. So G flat, a G flat major triad, has G flat, B flat, and D flat in it. We want to double scale degree 4 if possible. And so scale degree 4 being B flat. Okay. We could, no, go back to 1. We could put that here. We need a G flat and a D flat as well.
Could you maybe put the D flat in the alto and then the G flat in the soprano?
It's a little tough. Say again what you just said, Michaela.
Sorry, so maybe the D flat in the alto and then the G flat in the soprano.
Oops.
Okay.
Almost, yes. That is the most logical thing. So I totally understand why your mind went there. There's one very particular weird problem with that, which is that this D flat in the alto is lower than the previous tenor note. I think there's actually maybe a not crazy solution to this. So let's see. What if instead, the thing I'm thinking is we have to go back to this chord or this chord and change something because we're a little bit in a weird spot. So my thought is that what if we did this? Double the F there. Now we're missing the third. And instead, what if, oh my gosh. What if I went into, now I have created such a bizarre problem. Ooh. Okay, great. That's not what I'm saying. Anyway, what if we, here, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it. All right, just go away, layer 2. Back to layer 1. What if we here had F in the soprano and move the alto down to D? That would probably fix that problem. Now these are leaping a little bit, but it's okay. They can leap that much. They're both leaping a third. They're in contrary motion with the bass, so that helps. Okay, now Michaela's solution will probably work very well to have D flat there and G flat there. So there's our Neapolitan. Remember with the Neapolitan that flat 2, which is this G flat, when we're resolving it, is supposed to go down to the leading tone. However, we're going through this cadential 6/4, so it's not going to go straight to the leading tone. Can somebody tell me how you would voice the beginning of this chord, this cadential 6/4 here? What would you do with that? Remember, you can follow the numbers to an extent.
Could you literally just follow the numbers? Like, could you literally octave, sorry, no, because then you have parallel octaves in the bass and the tenor, ignore me.
Right, the tenor can't go to C,
No.
but we do need an octave above C somewhere in the chord. So where could that go?
Alto.
I think so too. For one thing, the alto can move down there by step without having any kind of weirdness, no weird leaping, no kind of bizarre diminished interval. It's just going to move down there by half step. That's great. Okay, 8 is accounted for. What about 6? 6 above C would be what?
A. I think that could go down by step in the tenor and then the fourth go in the soprano.
There you go. Exactly. So you're not necessarily going to have 8, 6, 4, soprano, alto, tenor, but those pitches will be somewhere in the chord, right? Okay, so at this point though, yes, you can follow the numbers in that F is 4 above, that needs to go down to 3. C is 8 above, that needs to go down to 7. A is 6 above, that needs to go down to 5. And then over here, now we just have to resolve a 5/7 chord to a 1 chord. And so remember that, just to review, there's 2 things that you kind of need to watch out for here, the leading tone and the 7th of the chord, or fa. So fa is, somebody unmute and tell me which one of those voices in the 5/7 chord is fa or the 7th that we need to worry about. Sean?
Is it the alto?
Good, yeah, exactly. So we need to move down there in the alto. And then Sean, why don't you keep going? What's the what's the soprano need to do?
Just go up.
Yeah, the soprano has the leading tone. And I know a couple of you did the thing where you like frustrate the leading tone on the assignment, and that's fine if it's in an inner voice. It could skip down to 5, but it's not in this case. Here it's in the soprano, it's got to go up. Okay, and then Sean, finally, what would you do in the tenor?
Would you just triple the tonic then?
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that in exactly that way. I'm going to make a little note of it here in the staff. Triple the root. It's okay. If you have a complete 5/7 chord, you will probably have to leave out the 5th of the 1 chord. That's normal. Yes.
Yes, I have some question. I have Miu. I think at measure 3, first, second, third beat,
Yes.
165, because this chord is F major, 1 harmony, but why 5/6/4?
Yes, good question. And it's something that we've been, that I've been seeing a lot on homework assignments. So there are textbooks that will call that 1/6/4. So you may have been taught previously to call that 1/6/4. However, we're calling it 5. Partially I'm doing that because that is the what I call the industry standard. That is what music theorists actually refer to that chord as, even though it looks like a 1 chord on the first part of it, because this is actually acting as a dominant in its function the whole time. And these notes are more like suspensions. So that's why we use a 5 Roman numeral for that, which I understand is confusing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions?
Just to follow on from that question, so if it didn't have a suspension, would it be, because obviously it's kind of hard to identify that. If it doesn't have a suspension, can we still call it a 5/6/5?
5/6/4.
5/6/4,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes. It will pretty much always have this structure to it. And by suspension, I just mean like these, the 6/4 and the 5/3. So it should be a pretty recognizable, consistent pattern. I just realized also that I had Sean resolve that 1 chord, but we didn't do any of the suspensions on it. So let's go back. We're still going to triple that root, probably. But these suspensions right here, we need to account for. So a 9/8 suspension, which voice is going to have that? And I'll write them in half notes. Which voice could have the 9/8 suspension over this bass?
Would the tenor have it?
Yeah. So by 9/8, that's what I mean. Oh, I forgot, I'm going to confuse it here. Let me change one more thing. So that's got to go. Okay, so then yes, the tenor can do that. And then how about 7/8?
It's just in the soprano.
7/8, and finally, let me move my little note. Oh gosh, I forgot it's going to do that. Anyway. Finally, 4 and 3 over there. So now that we have written that enormous thing, I walked my computer over to the keyboard so that I can play it for you, because it's going to sound really weird. Yes, question first.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey.
I'm late because my class, so I missed at measure first, second beat. Is the secondary dominant, right?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, good question. Okay. So here's how this bizarre progression sounds. A lot of weird things, but music is weird, so I stand by it. My choices. So that is the type of progression, and very similar to the one that's on the midterm. You might want to keep it handy, just to reference like some of the choices that we made and spellings and things like that when you're actually doing the test. Other questions about figured bass or about this part writing or whatever? Okay, it's after. Oh no, sorry. Who unmuted?
Right. I have a quick question about the augmented sixth chords.
Yeah.
Is there an easier way to remember the differences between them, or is it just something that you just have to memorize?
It's a little bit something that you just have to memorize. Let me do a different screen share and draw something for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. This is very weird. This is a very weird thing, and it's not really what they're based on. I don't know why it's like this. Go away. Okay. I'm going to draw a really bad map of Europe for you. So here's Germany. It's not to scale. This is the German augmented sixth chord. And then here's France. Also not very accurate, but you get the idea. And then here's Italy. And the idea is that, and this has nothing to do with where these chords come from. Again, I don't know why they're named this, but the idea is that if you start with the one that's Italian, that has 1 flat 6 and sharp 4. If you move slightly more northward into southern France over here, then that extra note becomes scale degree 2. And then if you keep going up northward again to Germany, then it becomes flat 3. So it's a very strange, inaccurate mnemonic, but the idea is that, you know, in an Italian 6, you have to double something. Let me add that. So flat 6, sharp 4, and 1. And then in the French one, you would have flat 6, sharp 4, 1, and 2. And then by the time you get up here to Germany, you would have flat 6, you would have sharp 4, you would have 1, and then it's a little bit higher each time going to flat 3. It's again, just totally made up.
Okay, thank you so much.
I don't know if that's helpful. But it is a thing that we say about this chord.
Yeah, I think it'll just be something that I have to memorize.
Probably yes.
My favorite shape is Germany. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Very accurate, as you can see. Okay, it's already 5:12. I don't want to keep you any longer, and I can't stay much longer myself. So what I'm thinking is, I think the analysis is more similar to your assignments. If you'd like to work on it, I'm still having regular office hours tomorrow, or I can certainly respond, give you feedback over email. If you'd like to send me a picture or a scan or something of it, that'd be fine with me. You can, I made a discussion thread for the week. So if you go to the week 8 midterm review, you can post a picture of it there if you want to also. It's up to you. But the rest of that is a lot more similar to other stuff you've been doing with the analysis. So I can stay for, I'm gonna let the clock run out, and if you want to, we can look at one of the analysis, or we can sort of talk through some of it. But when the timer runs out this time, I'm gonna let it go and then ask you to just send me things that you want to go over. So would you like to look at any of the analyses together?
Could we have a look at Elkonig? Just
Sure.
because that's, I think it's just because it's like more of a diddle, 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 and then just not many chords. Well, I guess the chords are kind of easy to look at, but it's kind of, especially the first bar and the third measure, there's a little bit.
For this one, definitely assume that you're in D minor at the beginning of it, because it does modulate in different parts of the piece, and this is kind of closer to the end.
Oh, this isn't in G minor. This,
The piece, I think, is in the usual key, but this is just a different section of it. So do go look at the discussion thread. I've posted the link and told you where to start in the video. It's like 3 minutes into the piece. So in this case, if you're looking at it, if we're in D minor, it looks like we start in D minor pretty normally. And then in which case, this would be what, do you think? Oops, there.
that's the Neapolitan sixth.
It is. Notice what else happens that this looks like. It's so annoying to get the flat, so I'm just going to do like that. Flat 2-6. It even starts with like a Neapolitan pedal, if you'll notice. Then notice as you're scanning through this, it's still a lot to take in, even with the triplets kind of written in a shortcut. E flat, E flat, E flat. Look at the bass. Focus on what the bass is doing and notice that it looks like it goes 5, 5, 1. I know that's not an A. But notice that it goes 5, 5, 1, or it looks something about like it's doing that, and just focus on that much up until that point. So if that's 5, 5, 1 in the key of D minor, then we're still in D minor. But look how long the Neapolitan lasts in this case, quite a while. And this actually isn't flat 2-6, is it? It's just flat 2, because it's in root position, which it doesn't normally do. So then here you might notice where it looks like it goes 5, 5, that we've actually got, what do you think is happening there? If you see 2 5s repeated like that at a cadence point.
Isn't it just like a 6-4, 5-3?
Yeah, exactly. It's a 5, 6, 4. Oops, major. 5, 6, 4. Going to 5, 3. Right there, going to 1, exactly. So it looks like a perfect authentic cadence, at least as far as the piano is concerned. Then what happens right before that? Back up 1 from that. You've got G sharp, F, B natural, and D. Which one do you think is the root of that chord? If you had to stack it up in root position where they're all just a stack of thirds, it wouldn't stack up. It doesn't stack up in thirds in the right hand right now, but you'd have to rearrange things a little bit. What do you think?
Oh, would it be G sharp then?
Yeah, so G sharp, B, D, and F. If G sharp is the root, does that sound like a major minor chord or like a diminished chord? Probably.
Diminished.
I agree. So if G sharp is the root of a diminished 7th chord, because we got 4 different notes, is it 7 in the key of D minor? No. In which case?
This is the 7, it's diminished 7th of 5.
Exactly. And it's going to the cadential 6-4 chord, so that makes sense. Okay. How about what comes next? We've got 4 in the bass. G, E, B flat, and G sharp. Which one of those do you think is the root?
E?
I don't think it's E, and it might be a little confusing.
Would it be C sharp then?
C sharp, and that would make it a C sharp diminished seventh chord. Again, look at the key. In this case, actually, it could just be 7 of the key that we're in. And what inversion would it be then?
Uh, 4/3, so second.
There you go. Perfect. Actually, I'm going to do that separately like that, and then line it up like so. Okay. And then notice that here we've got flat 2, and then it looks like something else kind of happens, and then we go back to flat 2. So I think we're kind of tonicizing flat 2 for just a second. And I would also probably call this, at this point, a pedal. And that means that something might be going on above it, like D, F, A flat, and C flat. So when you have a pedal like that, we've accounted for it by circling it and putting ped right here. And then I'm just going to talk through this because time is running short. That means that D is actually the root of a 7th chord that's happening above it. So sometimes I'll just sort of put that like in parenthesis here maybe. That's a 7 of the Neapolitan happening above it. And then the Neapolitan comes back. Like that.
Would the Neapolitan be used? Because obviously El Konig is about the Elf King and it's quite like horrific, and it's meant to be the mysterious and horrific. So would it actually be conventional for the flat 2 to become tonicized?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. What a great thing to end on. Yeah, that's exactly right. It shows up in scary, weird places, and that's what this piece is all about. Okay, so go listen to this if you haven't already. Listen to the other things, continue the analysis, and send me some versions of it if you wanna review it. I'd be happy to do that with you before Wednesday morning, basically. Right? We have less than a minute, so I don't know when it's going to cut off. Then the exam, like I said, will open early on Wednesday. I'll have an office hour on Tuesday if you want to ask any questions about it, though. I can't like talk you through it, but I could certainly clarify anything that's confusing. So the musical examples will also be in the same folder with the exam. So thank you for coming to this review session. It was nice to get to interact with some of you that I have not got to meet yet.
Thank you for your time, and that was really, really helpful.
Good, good. And yeah, I'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'll post these videos shortly, okay? Later tonight, probably.
Bye.
Okay, bye everybody.